What's up, guys? This is a 80 subscriber special. Thank you so much for 80 subscribers. I cannot believe it. By June, I thought that we would have just 70, but we got 80. Oh my god, wow. Okay, so I'm reacting to a video from, I don't know, I'm just gonna write it in the editing, and it's about, will America go to war with Iran? Okay, so let's start.
An unprecedented military airlift is underway. On June 16th, at least 32 tanker aircraft departed from American bases toward Europe, landing at key stopover bases for Middle East operations. The mission remains undisclosed, but it's not for some military exercise. A fleet of 32 tankers can support well over 200 combat aircraft operating at the same time. Meanwhile, on the other end of the globe, the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group has cancelled its scheduled port call in Vietnam and left the South China Sea. It is headed toward the Middle East to join the aircraft carriers that are already there. This kind of buildup usually signals preparations for a large-scale air campaign.
Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's like an attack, because a lot of countries do this to intimidate the enemy by sending large amounts of planes, tanks, and soldiers to the borders, which in case is the US now, and they might want to try to de-escalate the situation to potentially withdraw Iran from attacking Israel. So it's hard to tell if America's actually going to go to war, but my opinion is that I don't think it is. It's just trying to de-escalate things for now. But I mean, Israel, the US, and its allies have been preparing for Iran invasion for so long. It's crazy.
If America plans to support Israel's campaign offensively, these tanker planes and aircraft carriers would be among the most critical assets. In the coming days, the United States may find cause to get directly involved, if it hasn't already. The drumbeats are distant, but they're marching this way. For days, Netanyahu has urged Trump to join the war against Iran. He may have finally given in to the pressure. Recently, he demanded Iran's unconditional surrender and claimed the US knows the supreme leader's exact location, but will not target him for now. This story was picked up by nearly 250 sources, so it made quite the headlines. Less noticed, however, is the story of who might replace the supreme leader. Days earlier, Reza Pahlavi, Iran's...
That's crazy, because in, I think, the 1970s, Persia, the Kingdom of Persia, was overthrown by Iranian forces, and they were sent to exile. I don't know about the royal family, but apparently it's still alive, and so will Persia return? That'd be so crazy. Imagine if we because I've never seen a country being democratic, or well, this is kind of dictatorship, so, and come back to being monarchies. Because Bulgaria and Romania were strict monarchies before the Cold War, but when they became communist, they were communist, right? And then after they stopped being communist, they switched to democracy. So it's weird to think what will happen with Iran.
Exiled crown prince called on the country's security forces to cut ties with the regime and support a mass uprising. This is a major development. Iran has no coherent opposition to speak of, which is why all previous uprisings failed. But with the crown prince stepping in as a dark horse candidate, a unified opposition could emerge. This story has barely been picked up though. Only 80 sources reported on it, and most sources lean toward the right. So there's still much to piece together about what comes next.
Welcome to the underground.
Israel's airstrikes have hit hard, but not deep enough. Satellite imagery shows damage at Natanz, which is Iran's main uranium facility. Key buildings have been leveled, and more than a dozen top scientists have been killed. This building, for instance, turns weapons-grade uranium into uranium metal, which forms the core of a nuclear weapon. Rebuilding it could take up to a year. However, the real problem remains. Iran's most protected site, the Fordo fuel enrichment plant, is buried deep inside a mountain near Qom. Encased in reinforced concrete, the facility is believed to be beyond the reach of any Israeli weapon known to exist. It was built in secret and only publicly unveiled in 2009. Since then, Fordow has been at the center of international attempts to curb Iran's nuclear program. But Iran has other ultra-secure facilities to rely on besides Fordow. Tehran has recently been building an even deeper, more fortified site known as Pickaxe Mountain Plant. It is built straight into a mountain just a few kilometers south of Natanz. While Fordow is believed to have 2 tunnel entrances, Pickaxe has at least 4, making it much harder to seal off by bombing. Its underground chambers are also believed to offer
with Yemen,
more floor space.
Yemen, of course,
Iran
does not have
has
the
barred
power to build nuclear
IAEA
weapons,
from inspecting the site,
but
so
they have
most
like
of what is known
underground
about
bunkers which have
Pickaxe
been
comes
blasted
from
by
open source leaks and a
bunker
fair
busters,
amount
which I
of
think
speculation.
Israel has done.
However,
For
if
the past
Iran
days,
decided to
they've used
assemble
their
a nuclear weapon
tactics of
while under
bunker
attack,
busting,
this is
like the
place
US
they
did
would
with
do it.
Yemen a couple months ago.
Conventional bombs
Right?
simply
Their
can't
air
reach
raids,
it. Israel's
they're
best bunker
talking about it right
busters,
now.
like the US-supplied GBU-28, can penetrate up to 6 meters of concrete, but that is nowhere near enough for the
it's a
hardened
mountain,
chambers of
so it's
Pickaxe
probably like
or even
gonna be
Fordow.
like
The only
there's
weapon
gonna be so
that
many
stands a chance
anti-air
of getting through
like
is the
near mountains, so
GBU-57
it's gonna
massive
be just so
ordnance
hard
penetrator.
to even
This
get there.
13,000
Bombers,
kilogram bomb can smash through 61 meters of concrete. It is the most sophisticated bunker buster we know of. But only the US Air Force
I mean,
can
they could
deploy
get the
it
bombers,
using the
I think.
B-2
Like,
bomber.
they could buy them
No other
from
aircraft
the
is
US
configured
without
to
their
carry it,
intervention.
and Israel
but-
has no B-2 bombers. So, to destroy Iran's
they
nuclear
can sell them to
program,
Israel,
Natanz,
but
Fordow, and
well, Trump
Pickaxe
hasn't sent
will
much
have to
aid
be
to
taken
Israel,
down,
I
and
think,
only America can
since
pull the
his
trigger.
election, so-
Admittedly, air power alone
Yeah.
may not be enough. Special forces would have to be deployed on the ground to confirm the destruction.
I think they'll do the same thing with Yemen.
The
'cause
bottom line is that
they used
American
air raids on
involvement,
Yemen, but
especially
they
in
actually
aerial
didn't do anything to attack. They didn't deploy forces, so it's not really war with Yemen. It's more like not war. It's just some clashes, and Yemen is very ununified. There's gangs and stuff there, so
operations is inevitable. Most of the US tanker aircraft landed in Italy, Spain, and Germany at bases that typically serve as launch pads for operations in the Middle East. Morro Air Base in Spain is one such
What about
example.
Greece? Is that
It is a
much
place
better,
where
or Turkey?
tanker aircraft specialize in taking off to refuel B-2 bombers in the air. Doing
Cyprus
so
is a part of
would then
NATO.
allow
Shouldn't
the bombers to keep flying
they
to
build
the
a
Middle
base
East
there? I think
to
the
carry
UK
out
has a base
attacks.
there, or they have actual
What we're
territory
seeing
there.
is the formation of
They
an
have a
air
colony
corridor
to this day
designed to
in Cyprus,
sustain a
small
prolonged
pieces of it.
assault. A fleet of 32 tankers can keep over 200 combat aircraft in the air at the same time. There is no need for that kind of support in a region where the US already has a massive footprint. So, either America is preparing to strike Iran directly, or it is setting up a refueling mission over Iraq or Syria to let Israeli jets carry more bombs instead of
Yeah, that's what I think is more likely than actually going for the invasion.
With that many US tanker aircraft refueling Israeli jets, Israel can begin the second phase of the war.
I wonder how Syria and Iraq aerospace is just gonna react, because Syria is bleeded out from the civil war, so they have nothing to really do anything about it. So
Overwhelming firepower, including attacks on civilian infrastructure to deter enemies. It is named after a suburb of Beirut that was heavily bombed during the 2006 Lebanon War. The doctrine is designed to inflict massive destruction, pressure civilians to turn against local officials, and shift blame on non-state actors who operate within civilian areas. Former Israeli General Gadi Eisenkot described it bluntly: if a rocket is fired from a village, the entire village becomes a target. Israel is expected to apply that in Tehran, which would explain the additional tanker aircraft en route to the region. They're going to ramp up the aerial assault. The casualties would be enormous. Already, a mass exodus of civilians is underway, with many fleeing Tehran for safer ground. Critics argue the
Wait, they're
doctrine
like,
violates
from
key
where are they running
principles of
from?
international law, namely
I don't
the
know.
distinction between civilians and combatants, the requirement for proportionality, and the prohibition on collective punishment under the Geneva
It's
Convention.
very brutal.
That is all very true, but sometimes power makes its own rules, and the world has no choice but to move on. This is the war American, Israeli, and Iranian policymakers have prepared for the last 40 years. It has all come down to this. Iran knows the United States is likely to join Israel in attacking its nuclear program. In anticipation, Iran has held back most of its hypersonic missiles, storing them deep underground in bunkers where Israeli bombs can't reach. These missiles, designed to evade standard defenses, including the Iron Dome, are not meant for symbolic retaliation. They are reserved for targeted, high-impact strikes on key US military assets
see that?
across the periphery.
Wait, did you see that? A lot of people think that the UK has bases in Cyprus, which they do, but they actually own the territory. So what if Iran strike the British base in Cyprus, which the UK is of course in NATO, and this is above the Tropic of Cancer line, so they could actually, like, the entire NATO could like attack Iran in this case, because, well, the USA, these are just bases, it's not official territory, but the UK actually has official territory in Cyprus, so we could see what happens. And Turkey's right next to Iran, so like, I always forget if Iran and Turkey are enemies or friends, I forget.
If America gets involved directly. Iran's strategy could include military bases such as the British Air Force Base, Akrotiri, and the Andreas Papandreou
But it's
Air
a
Base.
territory. It's a
both in
base and a
Cyprus.
territory.
These two are used for surveillance and regional operations and would make for top priority.
I like how he has northern
Other
Cyprus there.
targets
That's
could
crazy.
include the
I mean,
Abu Dhabi Air Base,
it's legit, I guess.
America's main regional command center. Also at risk are the Qadisiyah Air Base and the Harir Air Base in Iraq, the Ali Al Salem Air Base and Camp Arifjan in Kuwait.
Kuwait's
the
just such a
Al Dhafar
random
Air Base
country.
in
Like,
the UAE,
what's it doing
the
there?
Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan, and the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi
That would
Arabia.
really anger the
Also, within
Saudis, I
range
think.
are the US carrier strike groups in the Red Sea and Eastern Mediterranean, but also the Naval Support Activity Base in Bahrain, which is home to the US Fifth Fleet. If Iran fires its hypersonic missiles at these sites, the casualties would be massive, especially if equipped with dirty bombs to scatter radioactive materials. Despite Iran's efforts to hide its
Know what else is
arsenal at
massive?
nuclear sites deep underground, the US military has weapons that can still reach them. Tehran understands that if the conflict turns into a full-scale war, even its most secure sites might not stay
I do
safe
not think
for
that
long,
Iran
which is
stands
why
much of
it
a
is
chance
carefully
against the
weighing
US.
when,
Because, like,
where, and
the
if
only thing
to
protecting
use its
them
most
from,
powerful
like,
weapons.
same with
This will
Afghanistan,
not
are the
end well.
mountains.
Many will
So,
die, but the last time
you know,
someone struck
the US has much more
bases,
allies
they
in
got a
that place
glimpse
than in
of the
Afghanistan, I
portable sun.
think, because India was kind of like, at the time, you know.
If you approve of what we do, please leave a comment, hit the like button.
Well, thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see videos like this. I know it's kind of random what I just posted, but I'm trying to make a YouTube thing here. Okay, so bye.